Hello and welcome to my first sketchbook tour because this is my first ever sketchbook. Before we start, let's get a few disclaimers out of the way. Disclaimer number 1, I'm sorry if the camera is shaking or if you can hear my oven. My kitchen is the only place in the entire house that has fairly decent lighting, so I have to do it here. And I don't have a stand to record it, so I'm using a bunch of books stacked up and I typed my phone to a knife. So thing number 2, I don't usually go this ham with the stickers, but I wanted to cover up the cover of the sketchbook it had coffee stains and other liquids on it because I actually didn't buy it for it to be a sketchbook. So the thing number 3, or like the disclaimer number 3, is that this was actually meant to be my lab book back at university because we had labs and we were meant to keep a lab book, and I needed something with very thick paper that would withstand coffee stains and me just scratching it or crossing all the things out during measurements. But then my professor had this brilliant idea that they're gonna grade our but they're gonna grade our lab books, and to make sure there is no bias, they would give us the university issued notebooks. So this was meant to be 50 or 60 pages. Right now it only has 35 because I ripped out all the ones I used for my labs. And that is all of the disclaimers I had, so let's just begin. It's gonna be mostly anime, but yeah. So the first spread is freebies from reference. Another thing I guess I should mention is that on each page it's gonna say the date, how much time it took me, and then it's gonna say if something is from reference, which means it's a direct copy or a study piece. If it's no reference, which means I came up with the pose, the clothing, the expressions and everything myself. Or it's gonna say nothing, which means that I used a reference either for the pose or for the clothes, but the overall composition is mine. But at first I did the same thing I did back when I started learning digital art, so it was just copying stuff. So we've got freebies, then we've got a spread with Oshinoko, Akane and Kana. These two are from the summer art and these two are from the screenshots from the second season of the anime. Again, just copying. Then we've got a spread of Blue Lock because I think this is about the time when I would catch up to the anime season 2, and I was so pissed off with the animation that I had to reread some chapters from the manga, and I ended up drawing my two favorite characters, which is Sa and Kaiser. Again, they're just copying from the manga, except for this part because there was supposed to be Ness here, but I couldn't be bothered to draw two bodies or two faces, so I left it like that. Oh, and all of the accents you can see here and later on are just made from some highlighters that I ended up keeping after university. So highlighters have never been my thing, but at my university there was a lot of events and they would just give them out for free. So all these are just highlighters. This is the first spread. This is the Nier Automata spread. The first one where I used a reference for the poses or for the clothes here and for the pose here, but overall I tried to be original-ish. I did use a reference for him, but I'm pretty sure I used a reference for her clothes, but not for the pose. And here I did use a reference for the pose, I still have it somewhere, but not for the clothes, because I actually do remember his outfit. I do love Nier Automata. So yeah, Nier Automata spread. Then we've got so this is meant to be Hoshino from Yakuza Fiancé that I hate. I tried to stick to the original art style of the manga and the anime, but it's just so different from everything I know that it ended up like this, and yeah, I don't like it. Then we've got Jinx from Arcane, because I watched the second season and loved it, and I finally, after a month, had the time to work in my sketchbook again. Then we've got Shoma from Yakuza Fiancé again. The thing about this page is actually that I ended up hating it for a long while. Not because there's something wrong with the pose or his expression or anything. At first I actually thought it was really good, but then I moved on to his forearms and I remembered he has tattoos, which I don't know how to draw, so I ended up just scribbling whatever, and I ended up hating how it looked. So I think in one of the videos I actually mentioned how bad this is and how I hate it, but these days I don't anymore. I think it's actually pretty good, and it's just the tattoos. I would cover them up and this is fine. And then we've got Hollow from Spice and Wolf. So I don't own, or like I didn't own any colored pencils until this day, but I wanted to add some more colors that wouldn't be just highlighters to my sketchbook, so I ended up going to WH Smith and buying like the cheapest set of colored pencils. And this is the first, I think, yes. This is the first page in this sketchbook that is drawn entirely from imagination, which is why it looks so bad. And I realized that I don't actually like colored pencils. It's too much work. But I love Hollow. Then we've got a spread from the anime. I think the title in English is I Attended an All Guys Mixer. So all of these are girls, but they cosplay as guys. It was a really funny show. I loved it. I love her. In general, she's my favorite character. And I also love her and her, but she's the favorite. I do not like how she turned out on this spread, but it's good enough, I guess. Then we've got the first spread of what was meant to be just a random sketching session and ended up being another set of OCs. So the idea was that for whatever reason, I didn't really feel like sketching or drawing fan art, so I wanted to draw something original or something random, you could say. So I drew him, and there was another sketch of the same character, but it ended up being so bad once I started on the liner that I just covered it up with a sticker. And the next day I also drew these. I never finished the sketch because Christmas was coming up and I think someone was visiting, so I kind of forgot. But yeah, this was meant to be very random, and if you watched one of the other videos, you probably know that I have a problem that I cannot for the life of me draw something random. Whatever I draw ends up being my OCs, and these two guys aren't any different, which is kind of a pain, but I also really like the story I came up with them, which is, I guess, for another video. But yeah, I was really happy with these because, once again, this is like no reference, mostly. So it says mostly no reference here because I did use a reference for the hand, but not for him. And next we've got, so this is December, and then we're skipping over to January. So if you watched one of the previous videos, you may know that I'm doing like daily practice sessions, and I do them sometimes digitally, sometimes traditionally, and this is where I started doing them traditionally. So we've got some random studies of coats, then some random studies of dresses, which aren't so random because this is actually my friend's wife's wedding dress, and this is a dress of one of the guests that was at that wedding. Then we've got some Pinterest outfits. I'm just gonna skip through all of the practice ones because I already explained everything in another video. And this is the last spread I ended up doing before going home to my home country for a week. So this is the same OC I drew on day one, and this is no reference again. The funny thing about her is that she is the 7th OC I've got, so one of the newest ones, and she is the only one, to this day, she is the only one that I've got the actual design more or less figured out. Every other OC is kind of like, I kind of know what you're gonna look like, but I'm not actually sure. And this is not me. I mean, I did the colors, but not the sketching and stuff. So after I figured I don't like colored pencils, I decided to try some of the markers. Like, I went online to Amazon, obviously, even though I hate Amazon, and I bought a set of Chromatech watercolor pencils, brush pencils, whatever. This is the tutorial pad it came with. I decided on this one because it was the cheapest and it looked good enough, but it came literally on the day that I was going to leave, so I only drew this very quickly to test out how the brushes actually work, and then I went home. So the next few pages are gonna be all the practices I did while in my home country. The thing that is different between these and these is that at first I was actually doing the pencil sketches first, then the line art, and then the highlighters. But when I went home, I only brought with me my sketchbook, like a regular pen and a highlighter. So all of these are first attempts. I was blocking out the shapes with my highlighter and then doing the lines with a ballpoint pen, and there was no pencil whatsoever. Some more hands, then we've got more hands, some chibis I did on a train back because I only went for a week. More practice, I explained a lot about these in another video and why I've done this and some other stuff. Then we've got another OC that these two are just on the border of what I would cover up because I hate how these turned out, but not quite enough to cover them up. Because like this one, for example, I pretty much like everything from here above, so I like his face and his hair, but just not everything are down here. And this one, I like everything except for the face. So yeah. And then we've got some more heads practice, more hands practice. I actually like how this turned out because the perspective on these is really weird, and yeah, I was quite proud of that one. But like I said, in another video. And then, so because I like my spreads too much, sometimes you will see that the dates aren't exactly in chronological order. Because here, for example, so this is January, end of January, this is 3rd of February, and the next spread is gonna be from January again, because what happened on the 31st of January was that the sequel novel to number 6 got announced, or at least the pre-order opened. And this is how I learned that the number 6 novels are gonna get a sequel, and I love number 6. And it's gonna show in my sketchbook a lot. I mean, in these next few pages. So this is just a page from the Chromatech tutorial pad glued to the sketchbook because I actually did a sketch of Shion and Nezumi on this page and colored it, but I hated it so much that I decided like, no, I'm not doing that, I'm covering it up. So I did that instead, and I did like how Nezumi turned out. I don't like how Shion came out. I think it's the red or like the eyes. It's just his face, like everything else is fine, the face not. And then so I wanted to do a redemption arc with Shion, so I did this thing instead, and I still didn't like that. I mean, I like it better than this one, but he still doesn't look like himself. So I decided to go back to my roots and do some studying / copying. So the next page is just me studying the art from number 6 manga. I like this page of Shion and I just love him a lot, but this came out fairly good. But then I made a mistake of trying to copy Nezumi's panels as well. And Nezumi has this scarf fabric thing that is so annoying to draw. So all of this entire page took me half an hour. Just him, just this one, took me like 25 minutes. And then I did these two in 9 minutes because I was like, I'm not drawing this thing ever again. And yeah, I left this in pencil because these were just my study sessions. So I was like, there's no point in doing line art for them. The line art is already in the manga. And then next, what happened is that I did some rough sketches that I wanted to finish but ended up never actually coming back to. Because when I said I went crazy when number 6 got announced, I'm not joking. So it got announced on the 31st of January, and what I did is like on the 31st, I rewatched the entire anime. Then on the 1st of February, I colored these, I drew these, and then the next day, I drew all of them. And I think on the very same day, I also sketched these, but I didn't end up finishing them on the 2nd of February because doing these studies made me want to reread the manga so much. I just went ahead and reread it. And then rereading the manga made me really wanna reread the light novels. So I ended up rereading the light novels, and by the time I finished them, I got swamped with work and other stuff, and I just never ended up coming back to these. But I guess you can see what my rough sketches look like. So I usually leave the sketches, especially traditional sketches, kind of meh, because I know I will be more mindful of the line art. So I would work on them more, but yeah, I didn't even write the date, and these are like 8 and 10 minutes, so that happened. I may come back to them one day, probably digitally. Then we've got some more practice from another video. More practice. This is the spread that I ended up doing by mistake because I didn't mean to do the realistic session. I said it in another video, but I'll say it again. So I wanted to do dynamic lighting practice, but I drew this very early in the morning before going out, either for work or for a meeting with a friend. And before I knew it, I started just copying what I see, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna finish it because there's no point covering it up. And because I like my spreads to match, then I ended up drawing her as well. These are both from Pinterest. She turned out better than her, but I think because here I was actually going in with the mindset of, oh yeah, I'm drawing realism, and this one's, like I said, a mistake. Okay, so next is gonna be an OC spread. And I know these look like two different characters, but they're actually the same character. They are my very first OC, and this is back when her design wasn't really finalized. It still isn't, but now I know I'm probably gonna keep the side bangs she's got and not just have her hair straight. But yeah. Next one is another spread I really don't like. So this is from Link Click, and I actually hate this one and hate this one, but let me just explain. So this was supposed to be Vane and Felix. I was testing out if I like sketching with pencil without doing line art, and the answer is not really, but maybe that's because I just don't like how he turned out. And then, so I know I could technically just erase this sketch because it's still just pencil, but I don't really like erasing stuff, and I've already erased Felix once, and I was like, you know what, I'm not doing that second time. I'm just gonna cover it up with a sticker. I got it from MegaCon London this year. And this one, this is probably like one of the worst things in this entire sketchbook, but there is a reason for this, and the reason is I was actually trying to see if I've watched Link Click enough to actually have Loguang design memorized. The answer is no, because like his hair looks completely different and the shirt is supposed to be half and half and not quarters. But yeah, this was just a random thing I wanted to see, so I'm fine with it looking bad because, like I said, it was just something to try out. Then we've got the last practice sketch page that was actually shown in the video, and then the next page is a practice that hasn't yet been released, which is a practice sketch page of feet or socks. I prefer to think of these as socks because one day I want to be able to draw full illustrations or like full bodies, and for that I will also need to know how to draw feet, but that day is not today. Then we've got a Jujutsu Kaisen spread, which is with Gojo, like the younger version of Gojo and Geto. Then we've got an Apothecary Diaries spread with Jinshi and Mao Mao. I don't hate how this Jinshi turned out, but I dislike it. But I do love how Mao Mao turned out. Although this is a second attempt, it's once again the page from the chromatic tutorial pad because I'm covering up a sketch that ended up looking like horrendous. You can see I was kind of impatient with them, so I didn't wait for the water or the paints to actually dry, and some of them bled through. But other than that, considering how I never actually looked at any tutorials, I think this is good enough. Then the next page is some more practice, clothes this time, so a shirt, like a vest, a yukata. Then we've got some hands. I don't actually dislike drawing hands. I'm not good at it, but I don't dislike it. Then we've got, so this was meant to be a Jinshi redemption page which never worked out. So this is once again right on the very, very border of what I would not cover up, but sometimes I really wish I would. So I don't like how his face turned out, and one of the reasons for that, other than him just looking ugly in this one, I'm sorry Jinshi, but one of the reasons is that this is why you should always use references, because I messed up his bangs. So his bangs aren't meant to be up to his chin, they're meant to like finish around his cheek or like ear, but I just forgot about it because I wasn't using a reference, and I only realized that when I was looking up the colors for his clothes, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why. So now every single time I see this spread, I remind myself that, oh, Jinshi's bangs are actually like up to here, and this is why this one looks so much better, even though it's also with no reference, because I just had this one open next to it and it's like, yeah, here. So yeah, this is the best of the three, but still not what I would like it to be. Then we've got a spread I kind of regret, but not really. So this is a part of my daily practice, and I've got different things I would like to practice, and I switch between them whenever I get bored. And at the time I was feeling like practicing some buildings. And first I drew this, which is, I mean, good enough. And this took me 3 days. And after finishing that one, I was like, drawing buildings isn't so bad, maybe I could do it again. But I made a very, very bad mistake of choosing a reference that I thought was simple, because it was mostly just straight lines and like cubes and stuff. But it had so many details that I ended up with this, and this took me 5 days. And I was like, I was so tired by the end of it. I actually just half-assed it from, I think, day 65. I was like, please just end me, please just let it end. But, you know, the end result is kind of good-ish, more, let's say. But yeah, that was a mistake. And then, so the next page is actually my favorite page of the entire sketchbook, and for a very obvious reason. So you know, like how here I wanted to see if I've got Loguang design memorized, and the answer was no. But there is one series from which I've got every single character's design memorized, and if you tell me to draw them like in the middle of the night, right after waking up, I would be able to match them like 90 to 95%, maybe missing some details. And that is, of course, every character from Shaman King, because I love this series. I love it so much. So these are done on the sketchbook paper, but with the watercolor markers, paint brushes-ish, the chromatic ones. And I messed up his skin color because I mixed wrong colors. So the chromatic set that I've got has 30 colors, and there are like 2 colors that are kind of similar to me, and if I mix one of them with light red, I get this thing, and if I mix the other one with light red, I get this thing. So I chose the wrong one, but... So this is Hao Asakura from Shaman King, and this is Anna, also from Shaman King, and I had to draw them because I realized that this sketchbook was about to end and I haven't drawn a single Shaman King character, which is a no-go. I love Shaman King so much, we have to have at least 1 page of them. With this one, I kind of look how his clothes turned out. Not exactly the hair, I wasn't sure how to do like properly dark hair, and yeah, the highlights are kind of like a mistake, but let's just say there is some fire around because he is a fire spirit user. But I do actually really like how Anna turned out, so you can once again see that I was kind of impatient and didn't let the water or the paints dry, so some of the blue from her pearls bled into her skin. But other than that, I actually am quite happy with this thing. As you can see, both Hao's eyes and Anna's eyes got these white dots, and that's just me cutting out very, very small circles of label paper and sticking them over it, because I actually forgot that they're meant to be highlights in their eyes. I think I remembered about it with Mao Mao, so she's got just a dot of the paper, but I forgot here and I really like how they look, so I just stick them over. So yeah, I like Anna more than Hao because she just turned out better, but you know, this entire sketchbook can be bad and it can have like some really bad sketches in it, but this is what matters. This is the only page that actually matters, and I'm happy with it, and therefore I love this entire sketchbook because this Anna just turned out the way I wanted it to be. And this is almost the end, so the next page is more practice. Here I was practicing some lighting, I guess, not really. And this is the only practice so far that I actually abandoned, because if I remember, I put the reference on screen, but I wanted to match the spread, obviously, and do some like cacti pieces, but after spending like 15 minutes on this one, I realized that this is just not gonna work and I will not salvage this, so I kept the page itself and I didn't scrap it because I've already worked on it for like long enough, because my practice sessions never take more than half an hour anyway. But yeah, this is abandoned. And the reason why there is a bit of it missing is because sometimes when I'm not happy with my sketches, like for the... Yeah, so this went here because I actually covered up her face. So that's why there's a bit missing. And the last two pages are, once again, more practice. So again, they are not chronological because I already stuck this paper here to cover up the missing bit of the page, but I didn't really have time on that day to do anything about it, so I used this page as like a whatever practice, and then the next day I did this, which turned out kind of nice. And then this is just me testing out the watercolor brushes on this sketchbook paper. So the thing about this sketchbook paper and the chromatic watercolor brushes, paints, markers, whatever, is that they don't really work on it, but it's not the brush's fault, it's my fault, because it actually does say on the packaging that they're only gonna be working on the watercolor paper, not on any other paper. But I was just testing out if it's true, and yes, it was. So this is me first drawing a line with the brush and then trying to like activate it. As you can see, it didn't do anything. And all of these is me actually putting the water down on the paper first and then adding in the colors. And then it kind of works, but it's like a lot of work to go through. And then we've got the last page, or like last back cover, which is arguably more questionable than the front one, so let's not worry about it. So yeah, this was my entire sketchbook. Very short one, because like I said, I had to like rip out some of the pages, but I ended up enjoying traditional art way more than I thought I would, and I don't know why, but it's just faster, and the end result, even if it's not really good or if I can't polish it, I'm just always happy to see it in physical form. So I already bought another sketchbook, but I haven't started it yet. So this sketchbook took me from October, like middle of October, until the beginning of March. But I wasn't drawing every single day, and I wasn't even drawing every other week. But yeah, that was just my journey with the traditional sketchbook and just drawing in general, but in a different medium. And I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye!